neither of the teams were in the top four, but the Manchester Derby took place at the Etihad. It was a Manchester City team that we've not seen the likes of under Pep Guardiola, 1 win in 10, and Manchester United team not in greatest fettle. What was your reading of the game? What was your outcome?
There's lots of readings, lots of outcomes. We'll get to Pep at the end afterwards.
Yeah.
I think just generally the game was scrappy, and I think a good indication of where the two clubs are right now. Of course, Pep's trying desperately to find a team that can win a game of football, really. And Man United, as we know, is changing things around. The story before was the news that we got in was that Garnacho and Rashford were left out of the squad, and the manager, Amorim, talked about basically it's just his selection. He sees things, he's watching everything, what they eat, how they train, how they deal with their teammates, everything. And he didn't think they were okay for the squad today, which is a very strong statement of two young players. Well, no, one young player, one experienced player, Marcus Rashford now, and that kind of shaped the team, Rob. And United, build-up play was pretty good through midfield. They just lacked a little bit of punch in the attacking half. Everything changed, of course, late in the game. But, I mean, just generally, quality, it was just...
well, wasn't great quality. I think it was an indication, as you say, of the kind of standing of the two clubs. When you look at Manchester City right now, Rob, they're struggling because there's a lack of confidence and belief in what they're doing. There's some doubt that's come in, and however great players they are, and there is some top-class, world-class players there, but you put a little bit less confidence, you put a bit of doubt in there, and it doesn't half change things up and slow things down a little bit. From Manchester United's point of view, and I think we both echoed the same thoughts when we heard the Amorim interview, I've got to say I loved it. If I'm a Manchester United fan, Rob, I kind of thought he won the point, and he made the biggest point before the game, was he's setting a standard. And it was really interesting because when Amorim first got the job, there was a lot of talk about his age and his experience. And he was saying that, what helped him at Sporting is he gets on with the young players, he's in touch with them, they're on a similar way. Maybe that Ten Hag wasn't. And I thought it was an interesting, and yet Marcus Rashford and Garnacho, I know Rashford's 26, 27 now, Garnacho's a young player. He's gone as hard and as tough as he needs to get them to start to understand, to learn lessons. He's going to make them better professionals in the long run, Rob. And it's I know it's a hard and harsh way he went about it. I don't think he came out and sort of told us they're late or told us this. He talked about the kind of culture he wants, and if you're not part of that culture, you're not on the list. You're not on the WhatsApp list, which was interesting. There's a WhatsApp list that tells you who's playing or who's not. But it was very much, Rob, as though I thought he laid down his first kind of discipline of his football club. Regardless of what happened in the game, I thought that's him setting the standard for the rest of the dressing room.
And that's 100% correct, right? We all agree on that. The sad part is that this had to happen. The sad part is that Marcus Rashford and Garnacho, through their behaviours, whether it's training, whatever it is, were not of use to this football club that are paying them really good money. Of course, we know Rashford's on a big salary. They weren't available today, Robin, in Manchester Derby.
Consequence of the club. Consequence of things that have gone on at the football club where they've been allowed to get in that position. So Marcus Rashford's on a huge contract, on huge money, and he hasn't probably done enough to have earned that. And he has not got the responsibility to have earned that. Garnacho, we know, is a huge talent, Rob, but if his focus isn't on his football, there's plenty of other things he can be doing in his life, and if that starts to become a problem...
It's disappointing, isn't it?
It's massively disappointing, but it's also an indication of how bad things were in the past, that we've got this. That we're allowed, and we shouldn't keep harping back to the good old days, but if Alex Ferguson in charge of that football club, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Ryan Giggs was Garnacho, plus with more ability, he couldn't step out of line, mate.
What I like about it particularly, I'm hoping that for Garnacho it's like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Listen, this is what we want.
For both of them, really, I think.
I think it's different, right?
Okay.
I think for Garnacho, I think it's a slap on the wrist. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Sort yourself out.
Okay.
I think for Marcus Rashford, it's like, okay, that's what's happened. I've dropped you.
Yeah.
Now what?
Okay.
Now what, Marcus? Do you want to please me again? Do you want to work your way back in and be a brilliant pro and produce your best results week in, week out? Or are you going to sulk a little bit, come back, maybe.
So you're saying they'll treat him a little bit differently,
Well, no,
you think?
I just think we're going to find out once and for all
Yeah.
whether Marcus Rashford wants to
Correct.
go on this trip, on
Absolutely.
this journey with
Couldn't
this new
agree with you
manager.
more.
And why wouldn't he?
Yeah,
Unless
yeah.
he's exhausted or there's some off-the-field stuff that we don't know about that's influenced him to take his eye off of what he loves and what he gets well supported. And that's what I want to see now from Rashford.
Correct.
We've talked about him forevermore, mate, on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I've said things like, he's too inconsistent. Well, it's come to a head now, and he's brought it to a head.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different with Garnacho, so let's see how long this goes on for, by the way.
Yeah.
And when Rashford comes back, please, let's have some good words, because we've not had any good words from the manager about Marcus Rashford, Rob.
No, he's talked about others.
About other things about Rashford. It's only him. Remember the quote, Marcus Rashford has to want it first to get back to his best when asked about him. So I feel like he's had a few weeks. Okay, that was good. That's not so good. Don't like that. Okay, let's see a game. Play there, play there, play that. Don't like that. Right. Now.
The funny thing is, he scored goals, Rashford, and I still think he'd be an asset for Manchester United if this guy can be brought back on side and bring his attributes to the group. But I hear what you're saying. It's very much down to Marcus Rashford. I have to go to another player just before we get into a bit more detail of the game. Mason Mount, mate, who started the game. I couldn't feel more sorry for a young man who moves from Chelsea. Things don't particularly work out. He picks up injuries under Ten Hag. I think it's 7 times this season since he's been at Manchester United, he's started a game and had to come off with an injury. Again, we were talking briefly this week about Callum Wilson was an example of a player who's been put back through injury again and the emotional roller coaster. Talked about Reece James. We talked about Luke Shaw at Manchester United. Some players, Rob, who somehow their body or something doesn't allow them to get through to get the conditioning, to get the rhythm, to get match tempo.
Yeah.
Do you feel a little bit for Mason Mount?
I really do. I mean, looking at his face coming off, and of all the things, mate, and I'm sure it's similar for you, mate, in 20 years of almost 20 years of being a pro, the absolute worst was always being injured. The absolute worst. All the fans saying, "When you're going to be fit." I'm injured, I'm out for the weekend, I'm out again, you come back. I had a thigh strain where I kept doing it, by the way. I did it 3 or 4 times. And I went to the National Centre in Lilleshall, and they figured me out and it was okay. But you feel useless, you feel like you're earning money, you're not doing anything. You got the local media that we don't really focus on too much, newspapers, interviews, radio shows, of what's going on, where's he going to be, it's the worst. And to happen that many times at a club like United, it's a nightmare for him.
The problem as well, when you're in that situation, fortunately like you, I didn't have too many kind of those type of injuries, but as players, you can't trust yourself, Rob. You can't trust yourself to get through 90 minutes.
How bad is that
so
when you
you're
go into a
kind
game?
of half holding things back. It must be so difficult. We hope it's not too bad. I hope he's back at home. Because I think he could have a role to play under him in one of those 10 positions. Well, I think his best position, when he was good at Chelsea.
Busy in those holes. That's exactly what he wants.
Happen. Let's talk about the game generally and how you saw it. I mean, obviously, Manchester City get the goal, courtesy of slight deflection. Gvardiol, dangerous in the box, lovely header, really well placed header.
Nice solid contact,
Nice solid contact. City weren't scintillating, but were up. Passing movements, getting 1 or 2 opportunities. Didn't create an awful lot for
and sat
Haaland.
back in the second half.
A little bit,
and I think sensibly, like the way they are, like it made sense. Like let's not go and try and be silky and try and score another goal, which they normally. And Pep afterwards was, I think he's disappointed at that, but I think he accepts.
That's where they are, isn't it?
And it was kind of working out okay until minute number 88, where. And we shouldn't really laugh. Mateus Nunes, who, by the way, I thought he was really good at Wolves, and I wasn't surprised that Man City bought him, but he's not had a good time at City.
No, it doesn't really work.
And yet, to be fair to him, he played in left back, kind of going into midfield a little bit, but mostly as a left back in the game. And he had a terrible back pass, Rob, and I'm sure everybody's seen it. We'd have to maybe go over it too much, but he made the most horrendous challenge in the box on Amad Diallo, who I mean, talk about a young player who's got bags of energy late into the game, brings him down, changed the game, didn't it?
Absolutely changed the game. And I actually kind of felt, I knew what was going in Nunes' head.
Yeah, you can see
as he's passed the ball to Diallo, he's thinking, I don't want him to get the goal that's going to give it the equaliser. I don't want to be that guy. So he goes flying back when Edison's not in a bad position. He's covering defenders. I'm kind of thinking, if Diallo's got to do a bit from there.
He wasn't heading towards goal, was he?
No, he was sort of on the wide areas, and he just almost stopped on the ball to assess things. Nunes comes in, takes him out, penalty kick. Bruno does the rest. And at this stage, Rob, and I've been thinking this since the game finished and then we've come to the podcast, was even at 1-1, it'd be a bit disappointing for City. I was thinking like a 1-1, or we've let a late equaliser late in, with a couple of minutes to go. But to concede a second in the manner that happened is where we are with Manchester City right now. Just sums up right now where we are with City.
And it's happened too many times now, Rob. Remember mistakes? Your memory's better than mine. But balls over the top, Ederson being in no man's land, that goal that they conceded.
Feyenoord in the Champions League, 3-0 up. Went running through. And
it was a bit similar to that, where he thinks he can the bouncer's going to beat Amadiello, which again,
Guys.
amazing kind of him to be able to reach that and touch it by. I think Vardiel looked like he could clear it on the line. Maybe I'm being harsh there when we see him running back towards his own line, but it kind of looked like he could clear the ball, but he didn't. And for them to lose from that position, and then the whole focus on the manager and the interviews that followed, and watching Pep, like tortured Pep. He's really struggling, and I believe him when he says, I don't know what to do.
And I think that was our takeaway, wasn't it?
It's such an unknown territory for him when he's not dominating the ball, having the best players and the possession and the goals and the wins. This is so alien, and the Premier League is so unforgiving, Rob. When I kind of described it to you as like a seesaw. When that balance, I mean, the balance for them for ages has been like winning. But as soon as it tilts the other way just a little bit, then they're losing all the time, and it becomes a habit. And
it's funny because it's like you say, and as I was listening to it, I was thinking, is Pep just holding back, or does he actually not know it? And I get the sense this is new ground for him, Rob. It's like putting Russell Martin in the seat and saying, what's it like to win 10 games on the spin? What's it like? You say, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I've never won. I've won one game all season. It's taking Pep into an area. Now, as the label, the greatest club, one of the greatest club managers in the world, you kind of feel like, well, shouldn't he have a solution?
Right, so that's the question now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't he know? Should he know?
Yeah.
And I feel like people will come at that
is it his style of football in the way that
never.
No, I'm saying in the way that he wants to play.
Yeah.
He can't kind of bunker in.
No.
He can't go low block.
I think naturally it sometimes happens. It kind of happened today, Rob, didn't it?
Because the players kind of feel,
but I think they just accept that the other team's
we'll
going
win
to
this
possess.
1-0.
We're just going to. So I think that naturally happens, but so rare, so rare. And he don't like it. He don't like it. Afterwards, it pains him that the performance was not good, and he said it. And how many times he said we were good today when they weren't? He means, but the possession and the dominance and maybe creating a few things, they did nothing of that today, Rob. So we're back to square one. I know that you kind of finally thought, I know that you tipped them and you tipped them.
I just thought today might be a lift. I was looking for a reason for a sport
to keep him in it,
to keep him in it. I don't think Pep sees it now more bigger than anything, Rob.
Yeah.
I suppose the question is in terms of Man United. What have they got to just get as high as they can in the league? Or is each game a different experiment? Is each game finding out?
I think so.
Finding
it's fact-finding. It's fact-finding, Rob. And again, I like what Ruben Amorim said afterwards.
You said something interesting, though, today, just on that, about the squad and about the system. At the moment, the two don't really match, do you? If you were saying the squad and individuals, no, we're not going to be critical. We're just looking at it from an objective view.
How difficult it is for him.
Yeah, with this group of players who are used to playing a different way in different systems, and what he wants, there's not that many shoe-ins, is there? There's not that many. There's probably two or three.
Well, there's Anthony, looking at Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony, and Amadiello. Look, kind of out-and-out wingers.
The wingers, yeah.
But not defensive enough. Maybe Ahmad is to play a wing back.
Yeah, he seems like he's done okay, hasn't he? So wasn't it interesting today? He went for the two fullbacks as wing backs. He went Mazraoui and Dalot in a game where he probably thought he's not going to have much possession.
Yeah,
we're going to have to defend it 5 times.
But he probably, what in the ideal world, he'd like more attacking, defensive.
Absolutely.
So they're not ideal. The wingers at the club is like, and Ahmad's so talented, so young, so adaptable that maybe he's going to be one of those pockets. We call them pockets. We can call them like right pocket and a left pocket, right in behind. And it's one of them is going to be like a Bruno Fernandes probably and a Mount. Bruno played early.
He played deeper, didn't he? Played in the sixth and start, and then when Mount came off, Mainu went in the holding role and he went into the
Interesting. I thought the manager saying like the goals are the goals, and I'll take the win. but the performance is what I'm most interested in. So when you talk about a league table, I don't even think he ain't even that bothered about it. They're mid-table. It's disappointing. He's going to take it as a experimental. We've seen a little bit of it iron fist today with the 2 players he's left out. We saw more examples of Mazraoui this time as a right wing back. De Ligt looks a little uncomfortable on the right. Yoro had a break because he played and he's been come back from injury. So this is going to continue. Just one thing, like from watching them, right, that I think they've been working on. I might be making, it might be wrong here, but there's a couple of times in the second half, Rob, where the goal came from, where Bruno Fernandes, from the pocket position, makes a clever little run in behind. And Rasmus Højlund played in, and he should have scored. For the second goal, Ahmad makes that. So is that something, instead of just dropping deep in the pocket all the time?
He wants the striker coming in a little bit
sometimes,
and then go out.
Those 2 guys can make runs in behind. So that might be something to watch out for, because that was pretty good today. That looked like it caught people out, and it was effective from those runs in behind.
The thing that caught me, and this was at 1-1, he said, once we got the goal, he said what he liked about his team is we smelt victory. And we went for it as though they were on the back foot and this is our moment. And I thought that those are little interesting, and all that, Rob, of getting the goal, of the celebrations, of the group coming together. Those are only things that can help a manager. And early in your career, you make a big decision, you leave a couple of players out, and you end up getting a win.
It's looking a bit better. The system's looking better. The possession's becoming more. I thought, just a last little shout out for me, I thought Mamadou Ugarte. He's doing all right.
Yeah, he's his go-to.
He's doing all right.
He's a solid guy, and he knows.
I think won a few big tackles. He possessed the ball, used it pretty well.
What I'm hoping, and here's one, and I know that it's more your shout that you've said, but I would like to see the development of Kobbie Mainoo now under this manager into a top-class defensive midfield player who's got the ability to get forward now and then and play, because he can play. We've seen that already, and he scored goals. But is he going to be good enough and tactical enough to do the other stuff, Rob? That smarts, that ability, that Makelele, that reading,
making
it
a few
off, being
being
strong,
a bit more physical.
Sitting in
Love
there.
to see that, Rob. I don't know whether that's
got to be part of the development. Hopefully, with a coach who likes to work with young players, likes to develop them. But a great day for United. Unfortunately, another bad day for City. Continues to be a bit of a troublesome time for Pep and his team.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.